What's up, guys, and welcome to BitCast episode 107 for the week of December 4th, 2022. I'm your host, Jake Martin, and on the show this week, we have my good friend and graphic designer slash illustrator slash artist extraordinaire, Dustin Heisinger.
Hey, Jake.
Hey, man, how'd you like that introduction? Was that fair to your skills and abilities?
That's a little too much.
But you're all of those things. I looked at your LinkedIn profile. I was like, what's Dustin been up to lately? I want to see what he's got going on. And those are all in your experience. So I had to list them.
LinkedIn is very flattering for someone that barely puts up any information about what I do or what I'm doing. It's just like, oh, you're a professional, aren't you? I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, you do design. Wow. You're an illustrator. If you could illustrate like one thing, what would you want to illustrate? Like dream job illustration.
Man, that's a hard thing to pick. I would love to do anything for Nintendo or Sega. I don't know if I'll ever get that. I have a couple of things that I would love to do. There's a couple of companies that I'm like, I like what they do. There's one out in Oregon. They're called Lincoln. And I watch their stuff like a hawk. They're making stuff for Tony Hawk. They're making stuff for Hot Wheels, Ninja Turtles, Nickelodeon.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
They just illustrate all of the toy packaging and like everything that goes with it. They did the like NWO, WCW, a lot of like old stuff that I gravitate towards, like toy packaging.
Right.
And so they've done stuff for Tony Hawk. They've done stuff for the Amped tour, some of those other like X Games kind of sports. So I look at that stuff like religiously. I'm like, what are they doing that I'm not like tapping into my potential? And so I look like I'm on the side of the shore, like watching them, like, what are they doing? How can I do that? Like, how did they do that?
So cool. Yeah.
So I just keep looking forward, and there's a lot of things that I'm like, Lord, if I have a bucket list, like, you hear me, I'm like, I would love like to do something for Sega or Nintendo, just
cool.
One little thing, like even if it's like putting their logo on a birthday card, like I'd say I did it.
I did it. I've worked with Sega and or Nintendo, and now I can die happy.
Yeah, I'd be like, son, your father worked for Nintendo.
My dad works for Nintendo. Oh man,
one time, son.
What's about a time? Well, man, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast today. I'm excited to have you on because today we are going to be talking about obviously what we've been playing, and I haven't talked to you in a while. We share a lot of the same interests, but I'm excited to hear kind of what's been going on your side regarding video games. And then I thought it'd be really fun to revisit an old topic we recorded on episode 40. We were kind of tongue in cheek there for, turning 40/40th episode, being a gamer dad or gaming parent, dad gamers. I don't know what you would even describe that as, but we talked about it on September, I wrote it down here, September 26, 2017. So almost 5 years, over 5 years ago. And a lot's changed.
Wow.
A lot's changed. I'm a dad, so I actually can speak to this now. Whereas before I was like interviewing you on, what it was like. So it'll be kind of fun to have a back and forth. But before we do that, quick housekeeping for you guys. Be sure to check out our polls on Spotify. I always mess that up. We have fun polls going on if you want to join the conversation there, or you can review us, which would be very appreciated. And then also write in your topics or questions to bitcast@bitbloggist.com. It would be very much appreciated. Sorry, I got a dry mouth there. But moving into the next topic, Dustin, this is one of my favorite segments of the show. The only other segment, really. I got to know, what are you playing?
I'm actually playing Pokemon Scarlet right now, so I am your nemesis. Kind of, not really.
Blue,
I don't know.
red.
I guess that would make me red. Yeah,
red. Yeah.
I'm a little ashamed to say I'm only an hour deep into it.
Hey, that's okay, man. That's okay. This is kind of the topic of the show today. It kind of ties in. It works out.
Yeah. So I think we'll talk about it later, but like I'm learning how to play games as a parent and ones that I really, really want to play. And so like I didn't go to the midnight release. I really considered it. And they're like, we're going to have a Smash tournament if you want to come and like get Pokemon and play Smash. And I was like,
That sounds
oh,
awesome.
I'd wax the floor with these kids. It's like, it'd be so fun. But yeah, I've been playing Scarlet for, I guess it came out, what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 3 weeks
And I've
ago.
played it a total of an hour, like just to kind of like pick it up, put it down, rock the baby back to sleep,
Yeah.
then like try to pick it up. And then like all of a sudden I'm tired. And I'm like, all right, let's just put you down. So,
And also put myself down because I'm tired.
yeah. And I picked up Cowabunga Collection just so that I could play
Yes.
Tournament Fighters. So
Yeah. People have been saying
classic.
great things about that game. In terms of if you were a person that played those growing up, this is like the most faithful reproduction of those. I don't know how many titles are on there. There's like what, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 games on there or
I
something
think
like
so.
that.
They have like every iteration of like
Yeah, they have
like
Game
down
Boy
to the
versions.
Game Boy versions, like
Mhm.
all of the arcades. I think what it does is it's so faithful to the art and the visual media.
Mhm.
Like as a graphic designer, I'm like that's an aside. As a nerd for like Ninja Turtles, like
It's
bro,
solid.
like this thing is like faithful to showcase like how much ephemera came out at that time for video games. And so I
Yeah,
just
man.
think that, it's so attractive to look at. There's so much to play around with in there. If you're not playing one of the games, you can poke through and go through some of the comics and the little books that came with
Mhm.
it. So I nerd out in those things. And I mean, you can spend a few minutes and then you jump onto the next game and get your butt waxed in
Yeah.
Tournament Fighter because you don't know how to play anymore.
Dude, I've heard some of those levels from the maybe it's the Game Boy game, or I know the NES one is also incredibly difficult. So if you are, yeah, I mean, like that's another thing with the new versions, you have the option to, put in save states or rewind and do a lot more to actually make it through the games, because without those, they are near impossible. It's just like, this is a terrible level. Who designed this? Someone who was trying to get quarters out of kids, I guess, in the arcades or something like that.
Yeah. So, well, what have you been playing?
Yeah, man, same as you. Pokemon Violet. Haven't had a chance as much to jump in. So like I've played about 10 hours, I'd say, maybe even less than that. I've gotten to like the second gym, and I did like one of the legend area places. And so that's all I've really done. I basically got my starter, got my team to like level 25 to 30, and I'm just kind of sitting right there right now. But I'm having a ton of fun with it. I think the formula itself, like it being an open world Pokemon game, it totally works. And we talked about this on my previous podcast, but like, yeah, I just think this is what we've kind of always wanted from Pokemon game. Just the ability to walk out into the wild and like, oh, there's a Pokemon right there. The only thing is just without the poor performance issues and jank. I think if they fix all of that, then it's going to be one of the best Pokemon games out there. I really am having fun with it. So
I
we'll see.
think that they announced today that they're at least acknowledging the problems that they've had. And I've seen some notifications on Instagram about like, hey, we hear you and we're going to work on it. Now, what are they going to do? I don't think they're going to mod it to 60 frames per second like these people have been doing, but
No.
it was gorgeous. I was like, wow, okay. It doesn't look like I'm playing Elder Scrolls Morrowind on the Xbox back here. And everybody's like,
Yeah,
just like barely moving.
just like stop motion.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
So
I've seen the 60 frames per second stuff, and it's hilarious. But I mean, obviously, it only will run on a PC that can have those specs. I mean, the Switch absolutely cannot run that kind of game. So,
are you running the OLED or are you using the regular
OG.
Switch?
OG,
OG,
20,
me too.
2017, baby. I
got that.
I had the OLED pre-ordered, and I was like, I don't need this. I was like, I don't need this. I was like, I play in docked most of the time. I'll play handheld every now and then, but even then, I'm like, it's not as much of an upgrade that I think I need this. Like I was in Target looking at the two displays, and I was just like, it does look nicer, but not $350 more nice. I'm just like, I'm happy as it is. I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but yeah, it's been good, but I hope they fix it up. And playing in handheld is actually like I probably should do that more because segue playing handheld as a dad is something that, or even just really a parent, not just a dad, but playing in handheld as a dad is very clutch sometimes because you're able to be closer to your child and more cognizant of what they're doing in the same room with them, as opposed to like attached or tethered to a TV. There's a little bit more of a connection there. So let's jump into the topic of the show, which is being a dad gamer. And like I said, we podcasted about this on the September 26, 2017, almost more than 5 years ago. But yeah, I'm a dad. You're a dad. And how many kids do you have now, Dustin?
I have 3 now.
Okay, you have 3, and I have one child, a son, and I'd say you definitely have more experience in this realm, but it'll be fun to have this discourse going forward. And so, one of my first questions I have for you is: do your kids like gaming? Last time we talked, I remember you were saying that you're like, yeah, my son's kind of interested. It's a TV, and he's checking it out, but I'm not totally sure yet. Now that you've had 5 years under your belt, would you say that your oldest or any of your kids are into gaming?
Yeah, it's definitely my oldest. At that time, he was reaching for the Wii U remote.
The Wii U. Wow.
The Wii U Pro. So, I've got 2 sons and 1 daughter, and they're 5, 3, and 1.
Mm-hmm.
So my oldest is the one that, is obviously, he was only like 5 or 6 months old when we first did that podcast. Mm-hmm. So him being on the floor and like reaching for the remote and everything and trying to like play with me, it's definitely on a different level now 5 years later, because like he can play on screen with me. Doesn't mean he wins or is competent yet, but I'll take that back. He is very competent at like racing games. He can kind of like do that with assist mode on, and he doesn't give up.
Nice.
But he's definitely one that's way more interested. Now I will say at this point in time, he has lost his privileges for the Switch for the week until his focus in school kind of like narrows back down. I want him to finish up this school year really strong, and so we've been kind of like trying to
being a good dad.
I'm trying to be a good dad, and like we're baiting him a little bit. Is like I bought him his own Switch.
Nice,
and he's got the Switch Lite so that he can just, because that's how he is. He's just a little bit more rough and tumble than
I was going to ask
the ones that would snap off. I was like, please don't.
Yeah.
And so he's got like the gray Switch Lite. He's got his own set of games. I think the only downside to the Switch that I don't like is that the games are so small that I've multiple times thought that he was going to lose my copy of Smash. And I was just like, just don't lose my stuff.
It's this small, be careful with it. Okay, if you take it out, put it back where it's supposed to go.
Well, I think it's like all of us too. We have that bad feeling of like when you don't save and you like eject your USB drive, you're like eject and you want to save your files.
No.
He's just like rip. And I'm like, no.
Oh, kids
don't rip that game out, son.
So kids do not have the wherewithal to respect the device, it seems. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
They're getting there, though. They're getting there. That's awesome. For Henry right now, he's just like, I'll be playing like God of War, like on the TV or something like that. And he's very interested in what's going on. Like he'll sit there and watch it for a while. And if he's sitting next to me, he is obsessed with any controller in my hand, and especially the PS5 controller because it like lights up. Sort of, it has like the lights around the little touchpad in the center, and so he's always like reaching for it, trying to play. And sometimes I'll put my headphones on him, and he just kind of sits there and he likes hearing the music. Like it's fun watching his face because he's just like, whoa, like he can just hear like what's going on. I don't usually walk him through a scene where there's like grisly violence going on, and he's just like, I don't want to scare him, so I'm just like, yeah, look at the trees, this is cool, look at the ocean. But yeah, it's been fun so far. But you would say, I mean, obviously your kids have Switches, so they're into gaming, which is cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So one of the other original questions I asked you on the last podcast was, do you have an idea in your head of what games you'll want to show your kids first? And so I'll rephrase that a little bit for you. Now that you have, what games did you show your kids first? Like, what was the if you can recall, what was the first one that you were like, all right, here you go, and they like actually played it?
I think it was when they released the NES classics on the Switch. So they put those on there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm wearing the shirt right now. I've got my little mug and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm rocking like a little bit of a Super Mario right there.
For the listeners, there's a little Mario shirt on. Yep.
Yep, just a Super Mario Bros. From the NES, just
the OG.
Classic. And I wanted them to follow my footsteps, if it sounds kind of cliche, but I was just like, I wanted them to understand and appreciate like modern gaming by appreciating how it started. Now, like I was about that same age as Jackson, and I had a Sega Genesis and an NES. And so I remember Saturday mornings, just like that was my time because I didn't get to play during the week. So I got to play on the weekends, and I would get to play Rystar. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep. I remember that.
Vector Man.
Yep.
I didn't get Mortal Kombat because it was not
allowed.
A great age appropriate.
Too much. Yeah.
Too much. I think we had Trackstar for the NES, and I could kick my butt now for not keeping the pad. But my sister and I would like smack the pads for the racing on the NES because we didn't want to stand on it.
Isn't Trackstar worth like a ton of money?
Yeah, that's why I feel terrible because I was like, we had that game.
Well, how would you have known? How would you have known as a kid?
Oh, I mean, yeah, say la vie. My parents got rid of it at some point. So
material things.
Yeah, we played a lot of those. I put on the Super Nintendo and played like Super Mario 3. I know I wrote it in the notes, but the first time that Jackson played Sonic and knew who Sonic was, and like he had watched the TV and he would run through the house because like Sonic X, which is like the anime Sonic that's on Netflix, and he would run through the house to gotta go faster. So he's like, gotta go fast, gotta go fast, gotta go faster, faster. And he would just run and jump off the couch and everything. So Sonic has been like the embodiment of my son's spirit. He's just like, and like he's just off. And so he's like, Dad, it's Sonic. And he like was looking at the TV, and of course it's like Pixel Sonic, and he's like doing this, and he like I cried.
Oh, that's so sweet. Like, the connection finally happened. Yeah.
It was full circle because I mean, like I think that's something like it's something that like I grew up on. So like, for you and for your son, like when you get there and you're like, son, this is Ocarina of Time. Like, let me show you. And he's like, why are these graphics terrible, Dad? But, you want him to be like, this game was a blast. And you want him to enjoy what they're playing. And so, I mean, like, he played the first level and got to the end. And he couldn't beat Robotnik or anything. But, like, to his point, like, I can't even get... Yeah, I was like, you played it. It was great. And, I mean... It was beautiful.
That is so cool, man. That is so cool. It's funny you have the connection with Sega because I never was a Sega kid. Sonic was always such a hard game for me to comprehend. Even as a kid, I was just like, I can go so many places in these maps, and I don't know where I'm supposed to go, and I'm going so fast that I don't even know if I'm doing the right thing most of the time. Like, and I'll like run into spikes, and I'm like, I guess I went the wrong way. I wasn't supposed to go there. I don't know. Whereas in like Mario, it was very clear, like, oh, you don't want to go to this thing. You don't want to touch the fire. Dodge the ghosts. But Sonic was always a hard one for me. But it's so cool that he's been able to experience that with you. That's awesome.
Yeah, he definitely enjoys that. He's played Sonic Colors now. He watched me the other day. We played. I can't remember which Sonic. I think it was Sonic Mania again, and like he was watching me try to like chase the Chaos Emeralds, like where you kind of like make every turn and it speeds up, and I was like, I finally caught one. I was like, hey, good, I'm not terrible anymore.
I did it,
and he's like, Dad, you got it, and I'm like,
I did.
That's right. I did.
I'm a gamer. You'll learn one day, son. Your dad's a gamer.
Your dad's a professional.
So for me, again, I haven't really introduced a game to Henry yet, but if I were to show him one, I think you had already mentioned this earlier, but like, I think it's going to be something that is going to be very approachable. So for me, I'd probably start with like Mario Kart on the Switch, honestly, because the accessibility options on there are so good. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like turn on auto steer and like the auto accelerate and the thing that doesn't like let you fall off the edges. I mean, at that point, eventually he can just kind of hold down the A button and then just go, and he can still compete. He can still have a fun time. He will not. I will still obliterate him, but he'll at least be able to finish the race at that point. And then I think I'll probably start with some of my favorites that I feel like he could comprehend, like N64 titles. Mario 64. Like, hey, this is a cool game because it blew my mind at the time, and I think this is where a lot of games have kind of built their DNA off of this one. So that'd be where I would start with. But yeah, looking forward to meeting in 5 years from now on this podcast again, and I can report back to you on what game he wanted to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right with Super Mario 64. It's so approachable. I think it doesn't matter about the graphics. It is still so much fun to play because, like, one, we haven't played it in so long, and we play it and it's great, and then they enjoy it, and like they're like, oh, I can still do these things. It's so approachable.
Yep.
And its longevity is like ridiculous because it's still something that's attractive even though it's low poly. It's just like, wow, it's like
still looks good.
Yeah, I can still let my imagination have a great time and go throw penguins off in the the snow levels
into the abyss. Throw penguins off the edge into the death. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, he did that with something the other day. We were playing. I can't remember what game it was, but he was just picking up it was the Super Mario 3D World that they put out on the Switch.
Yeah,
and you pick up the cats, and like you kind of like herd the cats, and he was just chucking them off the side, and I'm like.
I don't think you're supposed to do that.
And I was like,
but that's hilarious.
She's like, is he supposed to do it? And I was like, I did that with the penguins in the N64. I was like, he's fine.
He's just testing the game to see what is actually allowed. It's a classic learning moment. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. So now getting into the meat of the conversation. So I also asked this question last time. How would you say that your habits have changed, your gaming habits have changed as a dad? Now, obviously, with more kids, how would you say your habits have changed since, I guess, before kids?
I definitely feel more like a spectator than a true player right now.
Okay.
And I think that, I'm still involved in the community as much as I can be. I feel like at this stage in my life, I'm 34. I'm 34. And I'm trying.
That's what happens
kids.
to
I don't have to remember. I see you. I see like all of my friends, and my friend from Cleveland. Like they're playing, they're streaming, they're trying. They're really like. I feel like they're putting in the work, and I just like watching with popcorn. Like I'm here for the show, guys, and I get to appreciate it. And so I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what my friends are doing on stream because like it makes me still feel sideways connected to it because like I'm not putting my hands on the controller, but I'm watching people play through things that I really care about. Like, I mean, like me picking up Pokemon and like watching tutorials like over my lunch break is like kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm just like, all right, I want to see what's going on. And, a few years ago, I was still watching like Smash tutorials on like advanced techniques over my lunch break because I'm like, how would I do this otherwise? I don't have time at home.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I feel definitely more of a spectator. I definitely want to say that like I'm geared to play. I want to play. And I think that that's something that's been hard is because like I also want to spend time with my kids. I want to spend time with my wife. And like I think any man in their household like always wants to put himself last. And typically you fight with yourself at the end of the day when you're like, okay, am I going to treat myself to a game or am I going to treat myself to sleep? And it's hard because I think that you want to play like an hour worth of games and then you're like, wait, let me get 15 minutes to kind of like get situated where I was, what I was doing. When's the last time I played? And I downloaded God of War. I know this goes back to our first podcast that I talked on with you is I went to a thrift store and I found a PS4 for $100.
Yeah.
And I bought it and I fixed it and I bought God of War.
That's hilarious.
And I've made it to the entry of the title screen, and that's as far as I've gone.
Yeah, the secret. You're a madman for starting God of War. I mean, if you had enough time to get a PS4 and fix it, and then start God of War, I mean, like you're doing it to yourself. You're doing it to yourself, you madman.
Yeah, I'm very jealous of those people that can make these 70 80-hour games like Elden Ring. I watched you go through it, and like I've seen all my friends play it. There ain't no way I'm going to start it. I was
Yeah.
just like, because I can't finish it. I
Thank,
was like, I would
thank.
love to. I would love to be defeated multiple times and have my, pride be belittled.
Yes.
But,
That
I'll just
game
live
is
vicariously through everybody.
that game is a beast. I love that. I love the idea of being like a spectator, and then that being like a totally acceptable or like cool way to engage in gaming still. Because for me, like everything's changed. Nothing is the same as it was before kids. You can't play a game for multiple hours at a time, really. I'm on full burst gamer mode these days where like I'll play 30 minutes here and there where I can fit it in. And then, yeah, like you were saying, if you really do care about something, like if you like Elden Ring and you want to finish that game, you have to sacrifice sleep. So you have to either wake up early to play or you have to stay up later to play. And then, yeah, weekends, I work, my wife and I both work full time jobs. So the only time we have with our son is on the weekends. And so, really it is just like, all right, these little snippets of time during the week, I'll play a few hours here, a few hours in the morning. Um, and, I just apply that principle. Like it takes me maybe a month and a half to finish a standard like 20-hour game, maybe. So I'm a big fan of games that try to keep the story short because I'm like, oh, I can finish this in a week or two. This is great. But anytime I see like an 80-hour tag, I'm like, ooh, that one is going to be a stretch. Yeah. So when Breath of the Wild comes out or Tears of the Kingdom comes out, that's going to be, I'm going to be a tired person. I'm going to be a tired person when that game comes out, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah, I think that mindset for those games, they're so attractive. I know why they call them like the big picture games where they're like, big A titles, like
Open
everything like
world.
that.
Yeah.
Open world. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a blast. And then, even the newest God of War, I love Norse mythology. I love
Mm-hmm.
everything about like God of War as far as like what it was because I played it on the PlayStation 2 back in the day and I beat
Mm-hmm.
it and like I just saw it progress and then I was just like I haven't had a PlayStation, like I hadn't had a console since the Wii U, and then I gapped until the Switch, and that
Yeah.
was I just had like a gap. I had a 3DS, and that would just keep me entertained.
Yeah.
And I would play like the N64 games on those, and
Yeah.
it's been a while. So I think that the nice thing about portable gaming and what it means for a parent, and like especially like we were talking earlier, I could just have Austin or Jackson asleep on me. And like I didn't have to move my arms much. Like it was a very
Mm-hmm.
gentle experience because it wasn't like,
Yeah.
doing anything and they were able to sleep on my arms. And it was very passive, like just kind of like, okay, like playing Harvest Moon, like while they're asleep, who cares? Like
Yeah.
they're fine.
That's such a
And,
funny that's such a funny point about not having like waggle controls, You're like trying to hold your child and you're like playing Mario Galaxy or something like that and you're just wiggling. It's so funny.
I think the hard part is like I still have all of the Wii U pieces, like everything for the Wii, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to introduce that maybe in our new house this into January
Yeah.
to my kids. But I remember people throwing their like controllers into their TVs,
Yeah,
and
it's
they
a
didn't have
hazard.
like the things on it.
It's a risk.
And we bought Wii U Sports for Jackson,
Yeah.
and like you have the ability to kick
Mm-hmm.
and swing and do all of the stuff, which is a blast. I enjoy it and he enjoys it, but like we have to like move the furniture. We have to back him up and put like a piece of tape down and say, don't cross this line now, because like he gets into like the sword fighting, the baton
Mm-hmm.
fighting. He's like, and he just
Yeah.
keeps hitting it. And I'm like, okay, dude, like rage.
Gotta bring it back. Gotta bring it back. Bring it back. This is great. You're getting some exercise. You're playing. You're having a fun time. But we gotta bring it back. We gotta bring it back. And kids have so much energy.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop them. You can't stop them. Okay,
Oh, and
so
he's having a blast.
so closing this out, what tips would you have for parents out there that are just entering into this next phase of life and that want to keep gaming as a hobby? Like what any like nuggets of wisdom you would have to distill for folks that are wanting to keep gaming in their life as a parent?
I would say keep your consoles. That's one of my biggest
Yeah.
one of my biggest things is, I have a lot of consoles and some that I'm still trying to get that I don't have or never had and still would like to play.
Yeah.
I'd say keep your consoles is one of them. Keep your games. Don't trade them in because, like, how often are you going to get a fair exchange on these games now? Especially if they're digital, you're not going to get anything.
Yep.
So I'd say keep your games. Keep your eyes out for things that are kid appropriate. And like I think when we talked back on episode 40, that I look at games at Goodwills and thrift stores and things that like other kids are done with that my kids never got to experience. So, I have a lot of the Lego Star Wars. I have a lot of the Lego Harry Potters and things like that picked out for the Wii U, for the Wii. I pick up anything that I think's super kid appropriate, and I'm like, they're not now, but I'll hold on to it. I'll take care of it. So like a library for my kids when they're ready to start gaming.
Yeah.
And I've amassed a lot of stuff just because I want to share that with them. I want them to know that their dad is fun. Like I'm a lot of the times a disciplinarian, but like, your dad's fun, Jackson. I'm sorry. Like I'm a pretty cool dude.
I'm actually pretty awesome. Yeah.
I'm pretty awesome and you'll never beat me at Smash. But I would say like introduce your kids early and let them play things that are appropriate. Like, I mean, I think everybody has their own level of what they're willing to allow their kids to be around. I felt so bad when we lived in Cleveland. I had bought Doom Eternal.
Oh.
And I started playing it and rip and tear. Like it was just it's a great soundtrack if you ever want to just like run and rage to it.
Yeah.
But my son's room was right upstairs. So all of the sound was going straight through the vent into his room.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want him to wake up and this be the sound that comes through there and him like get really scared. And so I was just like, okay, so I got rid of that game because I knew he was in the house.
Dad, what is happening? Yeah.
What is rip and tear? But I just, I really want to be a part of their lives. I want to be a part of their gaming memories when they get older, when they're our age and they're talking about like my dad used to beat me in Mario Kart and it was about 10 years old when I finally like kicked his butt.
Yeah.
And,
that's awesome.
I think my parents didn't really get to share like gaming because they were working and, they had a rotating schedule. My wife and I both work 9 to 5. We're off in the evenings, we're off on the weekends, and we spend a lot of time with them. And so like, I think that it's important that if it's your hobby and you want them to share it with you, that you have to kind of like bring them in young. And then on the other side, when they start getting to where they're interested in things, like my son likes things that I don't particularly like watch or want to watch or care to like, but I need to be his biggest supporter too. And, even for my daughter, like I wrote in the notes that if she wants to play Cooking Mama, I'll play Cooking Mama with you. I don't care.
Yeah, play anything.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think that you want to spend some time with them and enjoy what they enjoy because that's their memories. They're going to be like, my dad always made me play Mario and I don't want to play Mario. I want to play
Fortnite.
Whatever. I want to play Fortnite, which, we kind of hold off on the guns for a little bit right now. I think that, just as a 5-year-old who I can't even keep from jumping on the couch, I can't keep him. Yeah. I was like,
he doesn't need that right now. He doesn't need that. Yeah. I love that, man. That's really, really sound advice too. Really solid. I think, letting them pursue their hobbies as well and taking interest in them. That's a great nugget of advice because I think you ultimately want to share the hobbies you enjoy with your kids. But if they don't enjoy them, then it's like, okay, that's fine. But also what do you enjoy? I want to know that I support whatever you're trying to pursue. So that's great. I think for me, what I've learned in my short stint of being a dad, I'd say prioritize first. Gaming is just a hobby. Other responsibilities will come first. So, like as soon as you kind of prioritize, like, okay, family, and then like friendships, and then hobbies, or like however you want to look at that, like just make sure you prioritize appropriately. And then I'd say set your expectations lower for how much gaming you're going to be able to fit in, because that's just the reality. Don't wish or assume you're going to be able to play like you did in college. It's just not going to happen, or in high school, whatever. And then I'll say, you'll likely need to sacrifice something. So, and when usually that something is time. If you want to actually fit gaming into your life, you're going to have to sacrifice time to be able to like make it work. And so time sleeping, whatever that is, but just make sure you allocate that and schedule it appropriately. Because you can't, I know scheduling is lame, but if you're keeping a busy schedule and you want to try and make sure you're, again, prioritizing, having a way to be like, okay, I'm going to dedicate this early morning right here to play like an hour of this game, and like that's on the schedule, and like cool, I can do that, and it's just something that's like my time. But then you have the rest of the day to kind of just make anything else happen. That's been like really helpful for me because I'm not a person who likes schedules, so I'll be the first to say that. But it does really free up the ability to be able to pick and choose different segments, or like really just visualize what a week looks like for me and say, okay, I have a time block right here where I can play a little bit of Pokemon Scarlet or Pokemon Violet, and I think that's like been the most helpful for me. Do you find this? Do you find
attacking on that? Yeah, I mean, scheduling. I don't think I'm as brave as you to wake up early and play a game. I don't think I'm on that strength level. I think I stay up later, and I definitely Friday nights for sure when I don't have to wake up so early because we've got to get the kids to school and daycare and then be in work by 8:00. It's a busy morning. I think that playing late, having people online, staying connected in a community. I think they always have really sad like show up times when your friends are younger. Like I have some 20-year-old friends that are online and all the time, and they're like, "Where are you at?" And I'm like, "Putting the kids to bed, bro."
They get on
there.
They get on at like 11:00, and you're like, "Oh, dude, I'm going to bed."
I can see you on the way out.
Yeah. Hey, it's so good to talk to you for like 2 seconds. I got to go to bed now. That happens to me all the time. Yeah. Well, that was great, man. This has always been fun to catch up and talk about being a gaming parent. I'm glad we got to do part 2 of this reloaded, or however we want to phrase this. But unfortunately, all that is the end of our podcast. Remember, you can always write into us at bitcast@bitbloggist.com. If you are a parent, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Any advice you want to give us, anything that's worked for you, we'd love to hear it. Dustin, thank you so much for jumping on the show, man. It's always good to talk to you.
Thank you for inviting me again. It's been a fun time.
Absolutely, dude. Where can anyone find you? Any plugs you want to drop on the show before we close out?
Not on LinkedIn.
Not on LinkedIn.
I'm not there. I'm there, but I'm not there. You can find me on Instagram if you want to hang out or, find me at the early time. It's just Dustin HY. So I'm hanging out over there. I'm on TikTok, but I'm not like posting. So I'm just kind of auditing like gamer content and anything that I can see on there. So I'm like anything that brings me closer to like the gaming community. I'm pretty much just on Instagram watching on TikTok. So I'd love to follow people just so that I can watch if you want to share your stuff with me as well.
That's a great invite. Yeah. If you have cool content, Dustin wants to see it, be sure to share it. Well,
for sure.
Other than that, guys, go to bitbloggist.com to see any other content we have coming out there. I'm sure we'll have some new pieces here pretty soon. And you can catch us on all the social channels, Twitch, Discord, all that jazz at BitBloggist. Until next time, though, this has been BitCast. Thanks for tuning in to talk about some stuff.